Hey, it's Zeph, Master DM here. Seeing as it's Christmas time, I decided to give everyone a gift of my own. Tips and tricks for upcoming, or even experienced, DMs. Now, I've ran my fair share of campaigns. One-shots, multi-shots, red snappers, snake bites, vodka shots, and even multi-one-shots. And over the course of the many years I've been playing and DMing, I've accrued a good supply of information and notable things that I think you, as a DM, should do when running your games. Today, we will focus on a few topics regarding most campaigns. Improv and explaining details, traveling and the benefits of it, combat, death saves, and finally, general rules. First up, improv. Let's go over a few things real quick. Improv is trying to do something whenever, when you don't really have an idea or know what you're supposed to say at that point in time. If you know what I mean. It's like whenever you're whenever your player is trying to do something that you have not planned for, and, well, you have no script or anything like that. So what you do is you improv. You do something off the top of your head. Pretty useful in the field. First up, here's one thing, quick tip, is make sure you always use adjectives, verbs, and fruity words. It always helps out whenever you're doing that. Another thing, always speak with the confidence of a lion. Never let your players intimidate you. You are the one, you are the champion. You are the dungeon master. Something else that people might not understand is that whenever you are describing and working with, things within a room or something, right? What you want to do is you want to try your best to describe everything around you. Try to take as much time as you can to explain exactly every single detail of the room, the carpet, the flooring, the wood, everything. What's that? There's a slightly rusty bolt? Oh, make sure you describe that in as much detail as you can. Now, here's an excerpt from my recent campaign I did. You walk down the very long stairs and go into the very long hall. You look both ways to see a very tall man at the very end of the very dark and very long hallway. He is very imposing. I need you all to roll against intimidation.
Oh, that's how far away is he?
At the end of the very long and very dark hallway. Around 200 feet.
How is he able to intimidate us?
He just does.
Come on. You're kidding me with this.
No, I know. I sounded pretty elegant, didn't I? That's, hopefully, what you will sound like one day too. With enough practice, of course. Now, on to traveling tips. Traveling is one of the funnest things to do in your campaigns. So, in mine, I always like to try to do it as much as I can. And in your campaigns, I suggest you do the same. When traveling, always try to take the scenic route. If the players insist on going the quickest way, always, I guess you could say, railroad them to the scenic way. It's never a good idea to go the quickest way to a place. For their experience, of course. The more experience your players have in events and such, the more experience they'll have for the entire campaign. Now, railroading isn't really seen in a good light in most campaigns. You don't really want to do that to your players. However, trust when I say the scenic route always, and I mean always, is the best way to go for your players. Another thing is, whenever you are traveling, always throw as many events and combat scenarios as you can at them. Sometimes your players might not be the most prepared for a scenario that you might throw at them, but hey, they should always expect the unexpected. Now on to combat tips. Combat is a bit of a hard one to talk about, as everyone has their own homebrew rules, I guess you could say. Mine, I would say, are the most reliable, at least from what I've seen. Whenever your players are attacking something or doing something that involves fighting or using their weapon of choice, in order to make the fight and or situation more, I guess you could say, interesting, throw in random movesets or even abilities to these creatures or objects that, like I said before, makes things a bit more interesting. For instance, let's say your player wants to fight a kobold, right? But because the kobold is a mage, he doesn't have any fighting ability. Just because you want to, give them the ability to dodge as a bonus action. Or even allow them to attack more than twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times, especially for lower level players when it's a 1v4. Now during combat, especially during your BBEG, you may want to, well, not end the fight so quickly. So here's a very good tip for anyone that doesn't want their BBEG to die so fast. If your players have simply been doing a lot of damage and it's already reaching near the end of the health pool, give them more health. Don't say anything, obviously. They don't know the enemy's health, so just increase it. Increase it until they are near death, so it feels more like a rewarding experience. If they are using some interesting tactics to perhaps outplay you, for instance, if you're a mage, let's say it's a dragonborn mage that is casting Create Water, and he wants to create the water in the lungs, well, obviously, you shouldn't let him do that. You should instead punish your players. So, instead of letting him create the water in the enemy's lungs, let him create water in his lungs. He'll be stunned for a turn probably, maybe dazed or something. He won't be able to breathe for a second. Give him a turn and he'll come back up. But that'll keep him away from thinking about any interesting tactics to beat your boss. And another thing is, whenever rolling for damage against players, don't be afraid to smudge your rolls as much as you want. You obviously want to make a challenging experience in a fighting scenario. Want them to get a criticals to make the scene more interesting? Do it. You don't have to abide by the roll. Abide by your own roll. Now, in the course that they do get murdered or hit by these mega strong attacks, you may want to think about death saves. And that's what we're going to go on to next. Now, I only really have one rule, or tip, about death saves. And it leads to some interesting scenarios later on in your campaign. Whenever death saves are made, make the death saves permanent. With the only way to get rid of these permanent saves is rolling a d20. So if your, let's say, your fighter goes down and he makes, let's say, a natural 1, that gives him 2 failures. Keep those failures unless they roll a natural 20. In which case you can get rid of the failures. Otherwise, those failures last for the entire game unless, again, they get the natural 20. But to keep it interesting and on their feet and make them not want to go down, do that. And now we'll move on to our final segment, general tips and rules. Alright, we've got a few things I want to go over for this. First thing, and things that I don't see a lot in many other campaigns, is the counting of money weight, and weight in general. Always I say, try and keep track of money weight, and all weight in general. You must, they have it in the book for a reason, right? So, obviously, keep it in your campaigns. It just makes sense to me. Someone that's carrying just a few hundred gold should still feel the weight of that gold. Same thing goes for having about 1,000 pieces of soap. they should feel those 1,000 pieces of soap. And if the money weight is not described in the book, just go based off of some realistic number of like what a normal like bar of soap weighs or something like that. Next thing, like I said before, be assertive. Don't let your players judge or tell you what to do. You are the DM. You shouldn't be told by your players what to do, or situations, or things that you should do that they like. It's your campaign, you run it the way you want. And finally, just as a quick thing, punish your players if they don't respect you or your campaign's direction. It's again, your campaign. They got in your campaign for the reason, or whatever reason that might be, and they should know how you campaign. So campaign the way you want to. And if they don't like it, get rid of them. Kill their character. Or completely wipe out their entire team. Just make sure you put your foot down. And let them know who's boss. Who's the DM? You are. And finally, as a rule that everyone should abide by, no matter what, is always respect and care for your players. Sometimes people need a helping hand or a friend to talk to. You never really know what a person is going through. So, it's good to be respectful and be kind. You could be helping them through their toughest times. Be the person to say that they matter and that everything will be okay. Try to spread as much positivity as you can during this season. And any season, for that matter. Everyone matters, including you. Everyone has their worth. And I believe we can push for a better tomorrow by helping others in need. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these masterful tips. I know I did. This is completely satire. I'm pretty sure that's the name of this type of comedy or something. Hopefully none of you have been offended. I'm not trying to offend anyone. This was completely for funs and because I was in the giving spirit this Christmas and I just wanted to use this voice for some odd reason. Anyway though, hope you guys enjoyed. I know I have, like I said. I keep repeating stuff. But happy holidays. Love you guys. And I'll see ya.
An instrument everybody loves.